You don't have to be validated to be the most perfect version of yourself. So I see weirdness as an asset, and it really only becomes a problem for me whenever I try to hide it. I'm normally asked to come along and talk about things from a business and inspirational angle, about creating a product and selling millions of them around the world. But very rarely does anybody actually ask about the characteristics behind that person that make that possible, and in fact, sometimes impossible. I do have quite a lot of weird tendencies, and really, this is only the tip of the iceberg, but so when I'm in work, if somebody hangs their coat on the back of the chair, that for me is a real problem because it creates anxiety for me for the whole day. Nobody can drink out of my glass. And when I say nobody can drink out of my glass, my initials are TEDxD on the bottom of the glass. And for complete transparency, it is the skankiest glass in the office. There's nothing fantastic about my glass. When I go to the hairdressers and they wash my hair, I'm absolutely fine with the washing part. Then they do the conditioner and they start the scalp massage. But the noise of my hair against my scalp is like nails going down a blackboard for me. And it's a total sensory overload. But what is great is weirdness attracts weirdness. And I had a guy in for an interview, and it was for a finance role. And finance roles are always really boring. I hate doing finance interviews. But there were 3 of us on the panel, and we got past all the boring essential criteria and got to my favourite part. And my favourite part was, so what does Stephen like to do? And Stephen said, oh, I have sausage dogs. And the minute he'd said it, that was the end of me. And I started to laugh, but it wasn't normal laughter. It was laughter where when you're in mass and you're laughing and you know that your mum is going to hit you a clip along the ear and you're trying so hard not to. And Stephen carried on talking, so animated and so excited about the sausage dogs. And the more he got, the worse I got. And the other 2 in the panel are giving me the evil eye, trying to shut me up. But when Stephen left the interview, and I had spontaneously combusted from laughing, of course, I said, I want him on the team. I want him on the team. He has got to be on our team. And the other 2 were like, well, we need to look at the skills here. Other people might have more skills. And I said, they might have more skills, but like, he has all the essential criteria. And they said, yeah, but somebody else might have more skills. And I said, we can teach him other skills. We can't teach him to be a weirdo. He's a weirdo like us. Like, he's weird like me. I want him on the team. And I got him on the team, just by the way. But weird doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. So weird for me is not a feeling or a sensation. As a matter of fact, I don't even know that I'm being weird a lot of the time until other people, to see how they're reacting around me. And there would have been a time in my life where that would have really troubled me, and I would have thought, oh, your weirdness is hanging out, you need to tuck that back in again. But I actually made a conscious effort not to do that anymore. And I decided one day, I'm just going to be a weirdo because I am a weirdo. There's no point in trying not to be. And I felt so empowered for having made that decision, and it lifted such a huge weight off of my shoulders. What a lot of people really don't know about is that on any given day, I have maybe 12 TV screens playing in my head, and on every screen will be a different channel, and they're all at the same volume. So in order for me to talk to you, I have to have like a notepad and a pen, and I will typically be writing down something so that I can focus on you. Writing down something is very often about you, and I'm so glad nobody ever asks to see the things that I'm writing down, because it might be something like nice nasal hair. And I'm writing down nice nasal hair because if I don't write it down, my filter will make me say something else, and it's going to manifest as something else. And it's more likely to be something like, I may ask the question of, do you use a device to tame that? Or is that a scissors job? Or how do you keep that under control? And as you can imagine, that becomes pretty problematic, not only from a personal standpoint, but also from a professional standpoint. So I went to the doctor and I explained it all to him, and I said, so what is it? And he said, oh, you're definitely on a spectrum there, definitely. You're ADHD or Asperger's or something. And I said, well, what are we going to do about it? And he said, I'll refer you to the mental health team. So I didn't hear anything for the best part of 2 years until I'm standing in Tesco's one day in the coffee aisle, and there's a man beside me, huge, big, furry moustache. I could actually nearly smell the coffee telling you this. And my phone rings, and I answer the phone. Hello, this is the mental health team in Grainne here. We're calling you about your appointment. But I didn't hear this on my phone like a normal person would. I'm hearing it on the tannoy in Tesco. And I'm looking really like apologetically at the man with a moustache beside me and apologising to him for him hearing my phone call. And I have, from my waist to the top of my head, I am putrid red. And my response was, no, thank you very much, that won't be necessary, and I hung up. But the truth of the matter is I actually didn't need a diagnosis. What I needed was a coping strategy. And I had already started at that stage taking a homeopathic oil remedy that was working really very, very well for me. I've got a problem conforming, as you can imagine. And that's because I'm a creative person. And when you're creative, you don't think in straight lines. And boy, I am so glad that we're living in this world of neurodiversity. And I've just discovered, and I really actually only discovered this fairly recently, that, and maybe you know this already, a lot of people have a dial for their attention span. They actually have a dial to dial it up and dial it down, but I actually only have 2 switches. And the first switch is, there's 12 TV screens, and the best of luck to you in getting my attention. And the second switch is, I can hear you. I can hear every breath you take. I can hear your heartbeat. But I won't hear if a bomb goes off beside me. And I won't hear that because I have a filtering issue. And the filtering issue is both filtering in of information and the filtering out of information. So let's imagine you sent me an email and the email is in paragraph form. And this is one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of reading. No reading, actually, audiobooks instead. When I receive an email in paragraph form, I can't process the information because I can't filter out the fluff. How did I get to where I am when I can't even filter out the fluff? So I actually have to process that information by bullet pointing everything. And I also, in order to retain focus, I'll have to have something in my hand, as you can see, all the time. And I don't even need to refer to notes, but I need to have something in my hand. Should it be a stone or a lid of a bottle or something in my hand? And there's only one thing really that exacerbates that, totally out of my control. And that one thing is tiredness. And I'm not talking about tiredness as in, oh, I had a bad night's sleep last night. I am talking about the tiredness that you get from 8 years of persistent jet lag, transatlantic jet lag, where I would have been in America at least maybe every week between China, America, Europe. I was jet lagged constantly. There was no break from it. And I flew in. Oh, it makes me totally really badly intolerant. I flew in from San Francisco to Belfast, in economy class, of course, because I'm paying for it myself. And landing to Belfast after this long-haul flight, exhausted, highly intolerant, as you can imagine, and I'm being driven to a meeting, and I'm getting changed in the car on the way to the meeting, and I just smell like airplane seat. You know that horrible smell? And I'm feeling sticky and it was just horrible. I arrived at the meeting anyhow, sitting in the meeting, and as you know by now, I have no filtering capacity at all at this point. And the lady and man are talking, and I just said, look, I'm really sorry. I can't hear what you're saying. Like, I can't even concentrate because your chair is squeaking. Because all I could hear was, And the lady said, oh, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. That's actually not my chair. That's my wooden leg. And if I wasn't socially awkward by that point, I would have been socially awkward afterwards, no doubt. But the truth is, I'm always socially awkward. And while I can stand in front of 1,000 people and talk, I actually could not sit in a room of 1,000 people and make small talk. That is a skill. And it's a skill that I just don't possess, unfortunately. But a skill that I do possess, and I get this through weirdness, is bravery. And bravery in that I'm not afraid. And I'm not afraid to be laughed at. I mean, nobody invents an inflatable seat and thinks they're not going to be laughed at, right? But that bravery also gives me, it encourages me to really challenge myself. And so I went for an interview for a board position with a public body. Now, I know nothing about the public sector, as you can imagine. And my very dear friend Sinead coached me for this interview because she knows everything about public sector. Now, she can coach me for an interview, but she can't coach the Grainne out of me. So I arrived to the interview. And there were 4 men and a lady on the panel, and the lady said, how are you? And I said, I am so excited to be here. Like, I've never actually done a real proper job interview before, like not with the panel and all. Like, I've done TV and radio and stuff, but I've never done. And I could tell by their reaction that clearly nobody had arrived that day with the same energy for the interview. And Sinead had told me, of course, that I was being scored on the criteria, so don't put me in a competition scenario here, because I have to win. And the man asked me the question, I answered the question, and then I followed it up with, did I give you everything you needed for that? Have I given you everything you needed for that question? Because I know that I'm getting scored on it, right? And he said, yeah, that was fine. And I said, fine. And he said, yeah, fine. And I said, no, I didn't get out of my bed this morning to be fine. I got out of my bed this morning to be excellent. So can you tell me where the gaps are so that I can help you fill those gaps so that I can get top marks in this question? So don't anybody please take any interview techniques from me. It's clearly not my forte. Although Shakespeare would say, nothing is either right or wrong, but thinking makes it so, right? Grainne Kelly here would say, no one is either normal or weird, but thinking makes it so. I think we are in the middle of the emperor's new clothes syndrome in this world, where everybody believes they have to be validated by society to fit in. Well, I'm going to let you into a secret today, and I want you to take note. This is a revelation. Take time. Nobody else has a clue what they're doing either. Everybody's winging it. And if anybody tells you any differently, they are lying. Okay? What if you didn't have to be normal to fit in? And what if you didn't have to be perfect to fit in? What if you didn't have to fit in? What if you didn't have to fit in? I would encourage you today to show up as the most perfect, weirdest version of yourself. Embrace your weirdness, folks, because weirdness is an asset.